Hey everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I am Justin, the Tower.
I am Nico, the Chariot.
And I'm Dan, a cup.
Yes! My fucking hand!
Well done. You might have recognized that if you're a very canny listener and skilled in the art of tarot, or you just like playing Persona, you weeb.
I was just going to say, that's right, we're reviewing Persona.
No, we're not. We're actually reviewing The Dinner Party. It's a 2020 movie directed by Miles Doleac, who also plays Vincent in this movie. It stars Ali Hart as Haley. We've got Mike Mayhall as Jeff, Bill Sage as Carmine, Sawandi Wilson as Sebastian, Lindsay Williams as Sadie, and rounding us off is going to be Camille McEwen as Agatha, or Aggie. So this movie basically opens with a couple, and I don't know, Nico, would you call them a younger couple?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely like older millennials, younger Generation X, I'd say.
Okay.
Haley's definitely a little bit younger than Jeff. It's Haley and Jeff for those of you keeping score at home.
And I'm keeping score here. It is Jeff and Haley. So they're going to essentially to kind of summarize, they're going to a meeting. I jokingly at the start referred to them as the Illuminati, and little did I know. But it's basically a gathering of very influential people who might be able to help Jeff, who's a playwright, get his play off the ground. So they're immediately greeted by Sebastian, who plays a prank on them. He pretends like he doesn't know who the fuck they are. Afterwards, he ends up like, oh, I was just kidding. But we're also introduced to the other members of, this dinner party, and they're pretty eclectic. Dan, why don't you tell me a little bit about them?
Yeah, so the other people at this party, we have the sort of leader, the head of the party, who is Dr. Carmine. We've got Sadie, who is sort of into the occult and witchcraftery and herbalism. We've got Vincent, who is, I don't know if we mentioned before, but actually played by the director Miles Doleac. And we also have Agatha, who is a romantic, I guess. I guess is one way to put it.
That's one way to put it, yeah.
So yeah, that's our cast of eclectic characters.
I mean, those are the people in this movie, and they do some actually pretty cool things. So things get weirder and weirder. I mean, I don't want to spoil it for you guys, because a lot of value in this movie is really seeing some of the more shocking scenes. And we'll get into one or two of them later.
Oh, buddy.
But yeah, it's awesome. Like a lot of stuff happened. Well, I think so. You'll hear later. A lot of stuff happens. However, we kind of learn that the purpose of this party. Nico, what was it?
So last week we reviewed we had Midsummer last week, yeah? And there was a death cult in that one, and there's a death cult in this one. And this one is, I guess you could say, if not directly like satanic, it's some kind of flavor of Judeo-Christian that is centered around some folks you wouldn't exactly see being put on play at your neighborhood church. And we'll get to that when we talk about the ending a little bit. But the true purpose is revealed to be they brought Jeff along as a ritual sacrifice. So they were going to kill him as well as serve him up with a side of fries, if you will.
Not a metaphor. They were trying to eat that guy.
Like dead ass. They were
not trying to. They did.
They succeeded in eating him.
They did. Yes. So the movie kind of takes an interesting approach, because what would normally be the climax of a movie where, the bad guys might finally succeed, we're treated to a scene, would you say maybe midway or a little more than midway through the movie?
You're talking about the actual where
Eating.
Jeff that's about halfway, I'd say. A little over.
So the bad guys, the cult at the dinner party, they win. So they dissect and cook and then eat Jeff. You get to see him do it too. And all the while, they're trying to convert Haley to the cult. However, she's just extremely resistant. She actually manages to get away. However, lol, police. She tries, but the cops are actually working for the cult or with the cult.
Fuck 12.
And so that's basically where they are. Now, Haley, though, ends up finding a little bit of strength that she might not have known she had. Dan, go into that.
So at one point during the ritual, Sadie gives her some herbal tea infused with some other blood and cultist kind of stuff. And apparently within that, Sadie kind of infused power into Haley. And so at a certain point, Haley kind of snaps and her her power comes into fruition, and she ends up just kind of murking everyone. So a couple people she like stabs, she rips their throat out
With her teeth.
with her teeth. Yes, she shoots a cop. I'll throw that one in there. She shoots a cop.
She came into the power of finding a gun.
Yeah. So she kills everybody except for Sadie. And sort of at the final showdown between her and Sadie reveals that, and they had hinted at it before, but that Sadie is much, much older than she seems. In fact, she's like immortal, ancient. She is actually who we believe to be Lilith from, sort of the Adam and Eve sort of history. And she ends up kind of converting Haley into being, I would assume, immortal with her.
I don't know if she's quite immortal. That's not really, I don't think they delve too deep into that. But she does, partake of the kind of evil looking apple. And I mean, we get to see a little scene later on in the future, Nico. Why don't you break down what happens? I wouldn't call it a post-credit scene. It's kind of like a mid-credit scene.
Yeah, actually, it is more like a mid-credit scene. So the reason that Justin is saying that is because we get a shot in the future where Haley, well, we have a different couple walking up to the exact same house that Jeff and Haley were walking up to. And then Haley is the one who answers the door, acting a fool the same way that Sebastian did. And they invite them in. I particularly liked this part where Haley said, "Oh, I've got a bit of a wicked streak," which is the same line that Sebastian said to her when he was fucking around and just being a jerk. But the other couple comes in and they are welcomed in by Haley and Sadie.
And that's where the movie closes. So I guess let's go ahead and do this. So we're obviously going to expand on it as we do here at Don't Open That Door. But to kind of give you guys a real quick snippet of our feelings, Nika, go first. Just maybe in 1 or 2 sentences, go ahead and tell the people what you thought of the movie, real quick.
So I really liked it. It was very different from, honestly, most things that I had seen. And I loved all the literary references in there.
I also liked it. I did think it was different from a lot of horror that I've seen. And I too enjoyed a lot of the dialogue and a lot of the talking. I thought the dialogue was a particularly strong point of the movie for me personally. Dan, wherefore art thou my brother?
I didn't particularly enjoy this one.
Okay.
For almost the opposite reasons, actually. I thought there was a little too much dialogue, too much build up. Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and expound on that in just a little bit. So let's break it down right fast, though. Visuals, Nico, you have eyes, right?
I do have eyes. Contrary to
Cool.
popular belief, I know that I'm often pictured as this sort of formless entity with voids and where I have eye holes and stuff. But no, I do actually have, my little ocular balls that...
Let's put your balls to work. What'd you think of
man.
the visuals?
So I actually quite liked them, and they, in particular, just the coloration and the just the balancing of light levels in the shots. I thought that the cinematography was actually pretty darn good for, what this is, which is just a movie that takes place more or less entirely inside of a swag-ass mansion. And it looks exactly like if you've ever played like Clue or a board game where you're investigating a crime or something. This movie looks like I imagined those board games looked when I was playing them as a kid. And the gore itself was detailed. The only other point of comparison that I have is, I guess it's multiple points. One is the TV series Hannibal, as well as the whole Red Dragon trilogy. But I'm probably going to upset at least 2 people saying this. By that, I mean you 2. They made Jeff look pretty tasty.
Contemplate your existence real quick, Nico.
Yeah.
Dan,
I'm
anything
just
to add
saying, y'all. I'm just saying. Hot takes.
anything to add about the gore? Or just in general, the visuals?
No, I actually really liked the visuals. I thought that was probably the strongest point of the movie. I really liked the cinematography. There's a couple like really cool camera shots in there. I just thought it was really strong.
Agreed. I thought, so first off, I can't believe we didn't say this before. This is an independent movie. So first off, hashtag promote indie horror. But secondly, I thought it was really well shot. I think when you look at a movie that's particularly an independently made movie, sometimes the cinematography can be lacking, right? We've seen
Definitely.
it before. But I thought as soon as this one started, I could tell from it, the crispness and the cleanliness, I guess, for lack of a better word, of some of the scenes. Also, and I will say this movie was not afraid to have color in a horror movie.
Oh my
Thank
God,
you.
it was really pretty, yeah.
Thank
It
you.
wasn't like Midsummer levels of color and pretty, but it was vibrant. It was a genuinely vibrant film.
I enjoyed it. For being shot in a house at night, I thought they put color in this movie.
Yeah.
And I was happy, more than happy with the visuals on this one. Now we're going to swap over to audio. So, Dan, you should have been the headphones because, you're good at music.
Headphones aren't around in tarot times,
But if they were,
probably.
Oh, this man, he got the beats.
By Dre.
Yeah. And then we have the fucking Hierophant who dropped his AirPods and now we're all sad. And I'm taking this bit way too far.
So audio-wise, I thought was a little weak.
okay, break it down.
I thought they were clear. You could clearly tell when something was recorded after an ADR and when it was done live. There was a lot of clothes rustling noises as they were speaking. I don't think that the ADR and the live really lined up very well. I don't know. That was a big distraction for me. And I know I'm an audio person, so I know I'm a little more keyed into that, I guess. But I don't know. That was just a little distracting to me.
How'd you feel, not so much in the technical aspect, but maybe about the score and some of the tracks provided in the film?
That I have kind of mixed feelings about because there was a lot of opera, which was cool because in points throughout the movie, the characters play like opera records and things. So I thought that was kind of cool. But some of the Britain soundtrack, it had sort of like a 80s kind of feel to it, which was kind of cool. And it was different, which is what I do like about it. But sometimes it didn't fit the mood of the scene for me. There were times where it was supposed to seem a little dark and dramatic, but it almost sounded sort of like I was playing like a video game from the 80s, like a Sonic game or something from the 80s, maybe not 80s, but like, 90s. And it just didn't always line up with me. But I do give credit for, like I said, being a little different and being, taking it in a different direction than what would be sort of the standard shrill violins or dark synthesizer kind of stuff. So
Dark
I do give
Synthesizer
credit
X. No, I mean, that certainly makes sense. Okay. Quick, look off in the distance. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's Nico.
Oh, fuck.
Nico, how'd you feel about the audio?
Well, I'm trying to think of a bird pun failing, so flying high, I guess. No, I did enjoy the and I understand what you're saying, Dan, about the sort of the tone piece of the tracks maybe not meshing entirely. I personally enjoyed it and thought that it was implemented well, but I also have more of an affinity for stuff that kind of leans into the aesthetics and can get a little cheesy at times. So that was a nice spot for me, but I do understand how what Dan is saying is, a perfectly valid opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as far as Dan is on the audio. I would still say I fell into the range of liking it. Personally, looking at it from a writing perspective, because, Dan looks at stuff a lot of times from technical perspective, I liked the use of opera. I liked, they were even nice
Likewise.
enough to describe the plays. Many movies would have just kind of like played the song and expected you to know. But I liked the fact that they busted out the different songs and they described, this one's about a lover who cheated on someone, or this one got locked up by the police, or something else like that. I really appreciated that.
So that's actually an interesting point because that's one of the things that I didn't like. Where again, this is one where I agree with you to an extent where, hey, I do like that they didn't just leave it there and just hope that you get it or whatever. But there was probably, if we were to total up all of the amount of time that they spent explaining the music, we would have hit probably like 12 or 15 minutes.
Okay.
Of like, because they play like 4 or 5 different operas and they explain the story behind them. And it was almost too much for me to like think about like, okay, well, how does this, I don't want to say how does this relate, because it does relate. Like the stories are relatable to what's happening in the movie and the characters and their viewpoints and their character traits and everything. But it was just like, okay, so in my head, I'm thinking about the plot of this movie, but now I'm trying to think of the plot of these 4 different operas and how they relate. Like there was just a lot of different plots to think about and how they all correlate with each other. And then again, it was a lot of time spent doing that.
Okay.
So I have a quick little response to that, and I'm going to sound like the biggest asshole in the world by saying this, but just
Par for the course. Let's go.
Yeah, par for the course. So I completely understand what you're saying. I didn't have that much of a hard time, or not hard time, but like I didn't spend as much of my sort of like mental energy sort of like putting the dots together with the plays and stuff, just because like personally I was familiar with that content, and I know that's not necessarily something that is average or to be expected, but you know, in my instance, you know, like I'm English teacher and I like read up on all those myths and studied them and did, you know, tons of stuff with them. So like I enjoy stuff like that, but it can get a little bit heavy-handed at times. So I just wanted to like throw the opposite side of the coin there.
Sure.
All right, now speaking of, well, I don't want to use the word heavy-handed. A lot of the people's fates in this were foreshadowed. So tarot plays a part in this movie as well, as you know, we said our tarot things. So you have some of the characters here, and their tarot cards really did say a lot. Jeff is the hanged man. Carmine's the emperor, of course, and he's the guy kind of running the show. Sadie is the high priestess, which, of course, because she's the one doing all the rituals. And we even have Agatha as the lovers. So, Nico, how do you feel the tarots represented their people? I mean, I thought it was pretty spot on. Like, it couldn't have been any different.
I thought it was spot on too. The only thing that I thought maybe could have been different is that Jeff could have maybe been the tower, but I think Hangman fits better. And, you know, here's some more major nerd cred. We have all 3 of us played at least one Persona game where tarot is a big part of the sort of systems and mythology there. So that was really cool to see. I will say I felt pretty nice predicting what their arcanas were going to be. But no, I thought that they were represented extremely well, particularly with Haley being death, because it doesn't always represent like you dying or having any kind of ill malintent or something. It can just mean like a new beginning, and that's exactly what this was. It was a new beginning.
Okay. Dan, what were your thoughts on the whole tarot predicament?
No, I liked it actually. I thought that was a cool thing, and especially like you said, with death representing, you know, almost rebirth, a new beginning kind of thing. And they mentioned that in the movie too. So I did like that.
Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and ask you guys 2 questions. So first off, how do we feel about the ending? So to kind of give you guys a little bit of a recap, basically the bad, in this case, lady wins. Lilith, aka Sadie, basically converts Haley over to her side. And they just, because Lilith can only, I believe they say, she can only feast on the flesh of man. Wasn't that part of what they said? So they have to keep inviting these people over. So how'd you guys like the ending? I'll start with you, Nico, because I know...
Because I'm a predictable sheep. I know. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not upset. I really loved that shit. I really loved it. Just seeing... I'm one of those people where when there is a turn in a movie where the protagonist sort of joins the antagonist in the end, or the villain figure, I just fucking love that shit, man. Like, there are other movies that I'm sure we'll review that have those. I'm thinking of one in particular that Justin didn't like as much, but that's okay. And I just love when it's like we see the protagonist embrace their humanity and actually get validation from someone that they once thought was, you know, the enemy or hostile to them. I love when, you know, you love to see a plan come together.
What a way to put it. Dan, how about you, man?
So I liked, like, sort of bigger picture, I liked the ending. I was kind of, the whole movie, I was wondering if she was going to join them or not, and she did. But, you know, the whole time, like, I don't think they were trying to convert her to the cult. I think they were using her for part of the cult, the ritual. But they even said, like, after this, you get to go home. Like, they're not converting her.
They don't give a fuck.
But, right. But I did like that she ended up being, I don't want to say converted to the cult because it's not really a cult anymore because they're all dead. But Lilith, I liked how that turned out. And I liked the kind of twist where she bit the apple and kind of became, part of that. And then I do like the very end when the couple comes in. That was a nice tie. If I'm being picky, I wish that very end scene was a little bit shorter.
I can see that.
I just think that it could have been half as long, and it would have, to me, gotten the point across a little bit better, or not better, but more succinctly.
Truthfully, it could have closed with Haley opening the door.
Yeah.
That's exactly, yeah. That there was a line where the couple knocks on the door and the door opens and nobody's there. And then the husband looks at the wife and goes, well, that was weird. And like, if it ended right there, I feel like that would have been the perfect spot.
Okay.
Because as the viewer, I know what's coming next already. You don't have to show that to me. I know what's happening.
Okay. Nico, I got a quick question for you now.
Yeah, what's up?
So, and Dan, I'm going to expect you to chime in on this. So one of them, I believe Sebastian, at the dinner makes a note. Apparently he was brought into the cult. In this kind of the same way as Haley. Because I think when they're eating Jeff and they're trying to, do a little aeroplane thing, kind of like you would do with the baby for food, like, oh, here comes the train. The airplane train, I guess.
The pain train.
I have this dumbest song stuck in my head. Train on the water, boat on the track. But anyways.
It's a deep cut, fam.
It is. That song's stuck in my head a lot. But we see Sebastian try to do that for Haley, and Sebastian goes, I think he tells it to Carmine. He's like, yeah, just like you did for me. I didn't want to eat either. Yeah. So I think it's almost that cult gets built up by, bringing in a couple, and then I think almost just like taking one of them and bringing them into the cult. And when you get really deep and look at it, and this is just a theory, it's a couple. It seems to almost always be a couple. And, it's kind of like a betrayal, right? But if you look back at it, it's like turning your back almost on your kind of significant other and choosing yourself.
Yeah.
And isn't that what Lilith did in the story as well?
Yep, 100%.
True.
So I just think that's kind of like the test. So my theory is that Lilith is just going to rebuild the cult.
Maybe, yeah.
That they're just going to rebuild it with more people again. And also when you think about it, right? Like, obviously, she had to be doing this for much longer than the lifespan of those people.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
So that's my personal theory. You guys think it holds water? Or
I'd say so. I didn't catch that line that Sebastian said. I must have missed that one. But yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense.
Well, what would you do? Let's say, for example, what would you do in that situation? So let's say, Nico and Dan, it's no surprise to our listeners that while, I would say we put out top of the line content. If we were steak, we'd be like, not Wagyu, but maybe like
a nice New York strip.
But that's not Wagyu though. So
yes, I know. You said not Wagyu.
Well, I'm saying we're not that. But what we
we're
would have
not.
been in this scenario,
thanks, buddy,
is I was gonna say we're all right.
Oh, you got beef, son?
I wish. It's like a meat shortage right now, bro. Fucking meat is expensive right now.
Yeah, we got too many people packing schmeat.
Let's really find out some truth here. No. So anyways, let's say, for example, our podcast was invited to a dinner party, and we know there's like really influential people there. So maybe like the biggest and badass podcasters, and maybe some
it's Joe Rogan.
Members.
We get invited on Joe Rogan's show.
Joe Rogan would be the emperor.
Yo, Joe Rogan, hit us up. Love to come on, buddy.
So we
I'm not kidding.
Joe Rogan's like, these three guys, I want to hear their story. No. So we get invited to this dinner party, same thing, eclectic mansion, and turns out they're evil as fuck. Now, let's say you start noticing the weird shit. We come to the door, someone's like, who the fuck are you guys? What would be your response, Dan?
I'd be like, bro, you invited me. Like, the fuck?
Nico?
Or I don't know. I might just leave too.
I'd fucking dip, homie. You know I would. I was texting you as I was watching this. And when he said, like, you two should both get the fuck out. And I was just thinking, all right, I'm going to do just that. You have a great day, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably be like, because, I'm dedicated. I would say, sir, oh, no, I wouldn't leave. I'd be like, nah, you invited me, dog. I'm the type of guy that, like, I don't know. I couldn't take that insult to my pride. You're not going to make me drive all the way out here, put on my nice fitting suit, to just get laughed at. It's not how I play. So let's say we're there and we're at the party and we notice Sadie doing some witchcraft. Nico, Dan?
Leave.
Yeah, I'd straight fucking dip.
Okay.
And like I wouldn't talk to like anybody along the way until I was like probably a few miles out. This seems like a very gated community, upper class type deal, and I don't trust those motherfuckers.
True enough.
I would have just used the classic, hey, I got to go to the bathroom. Where's your restroom? And then just walk the fuck out the front door.
I jump out the fucking window.
Ask
too.
right in front of them, where's the bathroom? And then just walk out the front door. And as you're walking away, yell, right, I'm going to the bathroom.
Between the three of us, on the count of 3, who would be the sacrifice? 1, 2, 3.
Justin.
Justin.
Yeah. So, would you eat me?
Fam.
No.
Dan, I believe you. Nico, you would be busting out the A1 because you're a fucking traitor and you wouldn't be opposed to some fucking Justin back ribs before.
Also, you over here saying at the beginning of the podcast, yo, Jeff looked pretty good though.
Well, yeah,
You
but I
did
didn't
say that.
I didn't fucking know the guy. I'm not gonna just like show up and eat your family. That's a sentence I just said.
Nico, you know what?
Wait,
You would probably like, I don't know.
I would probably help cook. I'd be like, oh, you what kind of, is that extra virgin olive oil, fam?
Nah, you know what you
yo,
do,
more
man?
garlic. Put more garlic, bro. More garlic.
Nico will be over here fucking like cooking me. Oh, you know what? Justin was a little bit of a bitch, yo. What is that? His fucking right fucking bicep meat. Yo, he ain't got no kind of muscles, yo. Let me tenderize that right fast. And just fucking like
Shit.
plow, 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 plow. Okay,
I
yeah.
know that I'm normally the class villain on Don't Open That Door, but I didn't know I was a fucking sociopath too.
I think honestly, you're the kind of guy that if there was a cult for
That
fame
would
and
eat
power,
his friend.
you would fucking eat me in a heartbeat. Dan, you would
This episode's called Fuck Nico, I guess.
now. Dan, you a soldier. You loyal. I think you.
I
I think
appreciate that.
I think you would. You'd find a way. Even if they got me, I think you'd like run away.
I'm gonna dip the fuck out.
Now, quick question, and this is one thing I was going to bring up as well. If it was the 3 of us, I think we could take them in a fight. Like some
No
old
fucking
dudes.
issue.
Not Sadie, mind you. We couldn't stop Sadie. But
No.
aside from her, now I could get seduced by Agatha and then die. In fact, you
Yeah.
know what? That's probably
yeah.
how I die.
Same. 100% same.
No, you lived, you ate me, but that's how I die.
Oh, right. No. Well,
So yeah, I think
There is that.
And in general, I would like to say public service announcement: don't go to Illuminati parties. And if it looks like they're going to eat you, just leave. So
I also wouldn't go in the first place because they didn't, like Jeff and Haley didn't know them at all. So like, how did you get this dinner invitation? Like,
and then they were like, by the way, put your fucking phones in the trash.
it wasn't in the trash. They just took their phones. To be fair, like next time you guys come through to my spot, I'll have to take your phones too for security measures.
Yeah.
okay, but first of all, I also know you. So again, I wouldn't walk into a house with people I've never met before, ever, who randomly invited me to dinner and then leave my phone.
Yeah, no, fuck that.
Like, nah, fam.
I think that's
Well-
when I would have left.
But that's when he should have had the Apple Watch, because
Hey, Apple, please sponsor us.
if he'd had that, he'd been able to be like, "Yo, we're good."
How will I know what time it is?
This review sponsored by the Casio watch with the calculator we all had back in third grade.
Take it back a step. If this was like back in the 90s, he could have had a beeper. He could have hit that shit.
Don't beat 911.
I don't want to imagine this movie with like heavy 90s aesthetics, bro.
Nah, that would be dope, actually. Because they could still play. Actually, if this movie was in the 90s, it could every single thing that happened would exactly happen the same way.
It wouldn't change. There'd just be no phone scene.
Yeah, that's it.
No, that's true.
So let's go ahead now. And speaking of no phones, what are some things that you didn't like about the movie? Now, Dan, you already talked about it. Let's go ahead and maybe pick one scene that you perhaps didn't like or one concept in the movie. So I'm going to go ahead and lead with you, Nico, to kind of finish off your dinner with dessert.
Okay.
what didn't you necessarily like about the movie?
So I didn't like Jeff, but that was kind of the point. So I
Right.
don't know if I can say that. I will agree with you guys. I think the ending could have been a little bit shorter. I also think that it would have been more, of a impactful ending if it ended on either Haley opening the door or Haley opening the door and then saying, "Sorry, I've got a bit of a mean streak." Just because I think that'd be a nice little way to wrap the bow on top of everything. I think there were some parts where the pacing was it dragged a little bit, but then again, I'm a sucker for character pieces, and I would definitely say, given the multiple power dynamics at play here, that this is the kind of movie that you watch for the characters, not necessarily for the scares, I guess. But that's just my opinion.
So I will say that for me, perhaps the only real major criticism I have of the film is pacing. I believe it's roughly an hour and 50 minutes
Yeah, just
runtime.
under 2.
So I don't necessarily think it needed to be that long.
I'm with you.
So the dinner scene where Dan was talking about all the dialogue, I definitely think there was a point to it. But I just think throughout there was a lot of long pauses in the movie. There was a lot of back and forth. And I think some of it, not all of it, because I do enjoy it. I just think we could have maybe cut 10 minutes off the movie and we'd have been okay. But that's just my take. Now, also, and this is kind of, I don't know, second point, but so Sadie is secretly the leader.
Right.
Or not so secretly. I don't know how it makes sense for her to let all those people die. Because if you notice before, they were talking about disposing the body. When one of their cult members dies, and like, oh shit, what are we going to do with the body? So they clearly are on some level, still bound by laws, right? Like if someone disappears, obviously non-cult police are going to try and find them.
Right.
Now, secondly, the whole cult just got like eliminated.
Pretty
and
much,
those
yeah.
were some pretty influential people. So I feel like the cult will have had lost influence. And yeah, I know maybe they pray to Lucifer and get that shit back, but I don't know. I thought it wouldn't have benefited them to have everyone die. I thought it would have been cool if maybe, first off, I loved Sebastian and Agatha. They
were both great.
They were fucking awesome. I have to really take my hat off to, I'm assuming it said Camille. I apologize if it's not. McCowan, she was fucking amazing as Agatha. I sincerely enjoyed her portrayal. She really got into it. Like that was someone who was committed to the role.
Oh, yeah.
I also really like Sebastian. But yeah, I thought Agatha really stole the show for me. So, Dan, something you might not have liked 100%.
So again, kind of contrary to what you guys are saying, I actually don't like the characters.
Whoa.
I liked the actors. I do agree with you that I think the actors did a really good job. But to me, I feel like when a movie has like an eccentric character or a very like over the top character, that's cool. If they have two, they're kind of pushing it for me. So the fact that every character in this movie was sort of over the top, eccentric, and very dramatic, I was just like, I'm tired of watching that personally. Like,
I'm done with you.
kind of. I mean, like, I didn't like Sebastian. Again, I like the actor. I like how I think he did a really good job, but I did not like the character of Sebastian. I just hated that character. Agatha, I didn't really like her character either. Again, great acting. I just didn't really like the characters at all. So I just felt like they were all way over the top in like characters of
They definitely were
certain like,
kind of
character types.
Yeah.
And like I think that's okay again in moderation when it's like one, maybe two, but that was like every character in this movie.
Okay.
And I don't know. And I agree with you on pacing. Though I feel like it should have been like 20 or 30 minutes less.
Okay. Those are, you're entitled to your opinion, Sir Dan.
Thanks.
You're really being a cup right now. Nah. So, Nico, genre. Let's go ahead and talk about that real quick because I completely forgot. What type of horror is this?
So this is something that I am kind of struggling to come to a conclusion with myself. I want to say that this is like almost more of a thriller, but it's like a horrific thriller. It's not like, oh, there's a killer loose in the neighborhood. Like, no, you are trapped in a fucking murder house. Like it's not a good look. But this is the kind of movie where like it wasn't. I I can't say it wasn't shocking because the movie is very visceral and they don't fucking hide anything, but like it almost seemed tame. Like when there was the bits in the movie where they were, explaining the detail, like what they were going to do to Jeff's body, and like they were taking a lot of meticulous care in preparing it, and even like going through the ritual leading up to when they kill him. I thought that it was done in a kind of more smooth and just clever way. So I think that it's still a horror movie. I mean, I think it's a de facto horror movie, but like I think it's more suspenseful and I guess cerebral than others.
Okay, Dan, thoughts?
I don't know. Would this touch on body horror at all?
Yes, I would agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I keep forgetting that's a genre, or at least a
Yeah.
subgenre.
So I guess that's probably what I would have to classify it as.
Okay. In my opinion, this is horror. I think this is, for me, and I'll talk about this more a little bit later on my closing thoughts, but for me, this is an example of a horror film that picks its moments, whether that's a budget constraint or otherwise. There's some really cool scenes that happen in this movie, in my opinion. And I do think there is a decent amount of gore, and I think it's used effectively.
Oh, yeah. Very, very effectively.
So that all being said, I would have to say, I consider it to be horror genre, a mix. It's got some elements of psychological horror.
It's also got
It's
drama for like in spades.
it has drama, but I think thrillers oftentimes have drama in them.
Right.
So I'd say a little bit of supernatural sprinkled in, a little bit of body horror, and a little bit of a little bit of thrilling going on. So kind of taking that along now, and after we've had our dessert, we're now going to have some after dinner coffee. What were some of your favorite scenes in the movie? Just go ahead and pick your most favorite. I'll lead, so you can't take my favorite scene.
Okay.
After they kill Jeff, you know what? I don't know. I'll change it. There's a scene with Agatha. After they decapitate Jeff, they take his dead body, and she slipped him
Careful.
ginseng.
That's your favorite scene?
That's your
something
favorite
else.
scene?
Yeah.
All right.
She slipped him ginseng and something else, and basically it made it so that he was like fucking erect. And then Agatha goes into this kind of story about how, like she, and I'm not going to say all the details, but basically she's a necrophiliac. Like she likes to fuck dead bodies. And she literally fucks Haley's just deceased husband right in front of her. And she makes like a lot of noise and she's really enjoying it. And a combination of just having just heard about Haley's history, then hearing about Agatha's history, seeing this, and it's just like, I wouldn't say I was like, oh my God, like clutching my pearls shocked, but I thought that was
You're
cool.
clutching something else.
My controller. So basically, I thought it was awesome. And that was really because how do you sell that? How do you sell that to someone? Yeah, you're going to play a role in
OnlyFans.
Dead Body. Shut up. So
I hope not. That's probably against the
Actually,
terms
that
of
is
service.
probably against the terms of service. Don't open that door does not endorse necrophilia. Let that be known.
no, but we do endorse the following rap line. I was her only fan before she had an OnlyFans. For all you sad boys out there. So anyways, yeah, I thought that was a really cool scene. Dan, why don't you go ahead and lace us with your favorite scene?
So my favorite scene was probably, this is going to also sound kind of weird. No, actually, I changed it. My favorite scene was probably after Haley gets her power or whatever. She comes into her strength and she just starts marking people because I wanted all of them to die.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
And yeah, it was good.
Nico, favorite scene?
My favorite scene, so longtime listeners of the pod will know that I love more ethereal, kind of ephemeral scenes that are trippy and stuff. And I absolutely adored the scene where they were finally, drinking wine at the dinner party, and they had the camera was going through all these filters and different sort of visual effects were happening to denote that both Jeff and Haley had been, drugged and or were otherwise affected, and just the sort of fairy-like aesthetics of that scene combined with the literal fairy tales being recounted in front of them with more or less direct symbolism and analogous events to what was happening in those narratives. I just thought that was so just chef's kiss. Loved that shit. And then they killed Jeff at the end, which is my favorite part of like the whole thing.
So speaking of Chef's Kiss, I do also have to give a quick shout out to the scene, which is fucking amazing to me, where they've killed Jeff and they have his body parts, like his raw body parts, like splayed across the table. And they have like his fucking like spinal column and shit like that laid out.
That was brutal, bro.
So that was what I was going to say was my favorite scene.
Me too, but then I changed.
Because it was actually pretty good.
Yeah, and like that was one of the scenes that for me, I was like, when I saw that.
You can tell the director had a backbone.
No. But no, seriously, like it was really good. I sincerely appreciated that scene. Like that scene, that did actually like just the demeanor of, I believe it was Carmine who was like cutting him up and like all that stuff. Like it was good, real good. That alone was worth the price of admission for me.
I just imagine like Woodbridge cutting him up instead of like as a chef.
Like
Boy, with your big ass forehead.
Hey, yo, Jeff, why your shirt so tight, son?
Coming with your dirty Nikes. That's a different movie entirely.
Yeah.
I miss
that fucking movie.
I do miss that part of high school sometimes. All right, so let's go ahead now and break it down to the critical review, shall we? On IMDb, this got a 3.5 out of 10. Fucking cowards. And Rotten Tomatoes, the critics pretty much had the same thing. It's got a 38% on the tomato meter. Fuck you both. But anyways,
wait, I'm with you this time.
No, not you.
Oh,
both.
oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's go ahead now and let's break it loose, shall we? Dan, where would this rank for you? If you had to give it, let's go ahead and base this out of 100, right? Where would this go? Are you going to give it a 35 out of 100 or are you going to shoot higher?
I would shoot higher because as much shit as I talked about it, the cinematography was awesome. And there's the acting was, cinematography and acting to me were the two strong points. I would say maybe a 50.
Okay,
right
Nico?
in the middle.
I am trying to rein in my own bias and my own sort of background because, I teach literature and shit like that. So, and I love when there are like not so subtle symbolism and imagery and foreshadowing. And that's just like, that's just money to me. So if I take it out of that context and just think of it like on its own merits, I would give this I want to say 73 to 75 maybe.
Now, what would you give it?
Now, what would I give it? I would give it like an 85 or an 87, honestly, like mid to high 80s. But like if someone wasn't coming in with the either predisposition to just like, yes, and we are loading on all of the metaphors on top of each other into a delicious literary analysis sandwich, like not everyone digs that shit. I get that.
I mean, I get that, but it's your opinion.
Yeah.
So,
I'll own my shit. I'll say it's it's an 88. Fuck it, 87.
There you go. All right. Okay. I would give this film, I'm going to stick it at an 80.
Okay.
For the record, I really do enjoy watching independent movies where the fucking people give a damn.
Oh,
and
yeah.
This was
Agreed.
cool. This was cool. They
were all invested.
I got to see the director's vision. I mean, he even played a character himself. And I also know that, correct me if I'm wrong, but he also helped write some of the music as well, right?
I believe that is correct, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I thought the cinematography was crisp and clear. Personally, and for me, this is one thing. I mean, when you watch so many horror movies, again, I love a good old cliche horror movie every now and again. Don't get me wrong, right? But sometimes it can be so refreshing to see a new take on something. Have
Agreed.
I seen movies where a couple gets invited to a dinner party and everything shakes loose or something goes wrong? Yes. I've seen movies that have a pretense like that or similar to that, right? But this particular movie, I thought approached it in a very fresh way. I thought the cast, and Dan, this is where me and you gotta fucking just pull out our gloves and duel, because I liked the cast. I thought everything was cool. My only thing, and what really stopped me from giving it a higher score, was the pacing in some parts. But, that being said, I like this movie. I really like this movie a lot. I'm not sure if this was going to theaters. I was doing some research on this and I wasn't 100% certain. Maybe it was going to get a limited release. And obviously, COVID fucked up a lot of things for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So,
is Sundance even happening this year?
I don't know.
Damn.
I know they pretty much canceled Coachella.
Yeah, that's
So-
wild, man.
But the movie is digitally available, and honestly, I'm glad I watched it. So yeah, that's all our recommendation, or that's all our things. Now let's get to brass tacks. Would you guys recommend this movie to a friend? Nico?
Yes.
Dan?
No, unless they're a horror fan. If they're a horror fan, yes, I would. Aside from that, I would have to say no, unfortunately.
I would say yes. So with the caveat that I wouldn't show this to anyone who is squeamish.
No, Christ, no.
Mentally or physically, I wouldn't show this to someone who wasn't, had a little bit of gumption.
I will also add in a trigger warning to those that it might be useful for. There is a lot that deals with like family trauma and domestic violence and abuse. So if that's something that affects you, maybe give this one a pass.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's why I didn't mention. I tried not to mention it at all during the podcast. But yeah, for those of you who have the wherewithal to enjoy it, I quite liked it. So I would recommend it. Now that being said, Dan didn't recommend it, so this is not going to get the golden seal of approval.
Or just the seal of approval, really.
I guess so. That's been The Dinner Party 2020. It's not the romantic comedy. Nope, it's not that one. So yeah,
We'll be reviewing that next week. Just kidding.
That's our thoughts on it, but we want to know what you think. So go ahead, please, and drop us a line. We're on Twitter and Instagram at DOTD Horror. We're on Facebook, Don't Open That Door. That's it from us here at Don't Open That Door. Still, months later, asking everyone to stay safe. And yeah, have a good night, ladies and gents. Bye.